Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I want to talk about how to resist the cravings of certain foods, how to resist the temptation. I get emails from people asking me all the time how to not give in to the temptation of eating certain foods that they don't want to be eating, or they've been on a super healthy diet and once in a while they allow themselves a treat and next thing you know it, they're overeating something and it leads them to eating something else that they don't want to be eating. How to deal with all this? Great question. So the first thing that I do suggest is to first assess the situation, assess your diet. A lot of times when people email me telling me about their cravings and how they end up overeating foods they don't want to be eating, they also describe their diet, and a lot of times what I see is people don't get enough variety. Sometimes people's diets are too restrictive, and over time, in the beginning it's okay, but over time their body might be lacking certain nutrients and enough variety to be covering its nutritional needs, that they start craving certain foods and overeating certain foods. So it's really important to have an honest look at your diet and ask yourself, am I getting enough variety? Have I cut out too much out of my diet? Too many food groups, too many different types of foods? Am I covering my nutritional needs? Am I covering my needs for different textures and flavors and different foods? All of that, because we have taste buds, so we can taste our food, and we need to have enough variety to be getting enough nutrition. So it's important to look at that, because for example, I do get emails from people that they'll describe their diet and they'll be like, yeah, all I eat is vegetables and meat, and once in a while they'll allow themselves a slice of bread, and next thing you know they'll eat the whole loaf of bread, or they'll have a bowl of grains or something, and then it triggers them to want other foods that they're not having. I also hear from people that all they eat is fruit and vegetables, and once in a while they'll have a handful of nuts, and next thing you know they eat the whole bag, and then it makes them want to go and eat other foods that they've cut out, and it just becomes a mess. And a lot of times it's because their diet is just too limited. It might even be that you're eating the same foods every single day. How many people eat the same breakfast, the same lunch, the same dinner for years on end? And then they're wondering, why is it that here and there they're binging out on other foods, or they can't have a hard time over time sticking to their diet. And a lot of times it's because they're just not getting enough variety. It's really important to change things up. It's important to be including as much different types of foods into your diet as possible so that you cover your nutritional needs. Because sometimes those cravings is because your body actually needs nutrients that you're not getting enough of. It's not only an emotional thing or this craving because you craving it because it tastes good. It could very well mean that your body is lacking something. So it's important first to always assess your diet, assess the situation, and be honest with yourself. Are you restricting too much? Are you getting enough variety? The second thing is to go back to why you cut out those foods to begin with. This is something people forget a lot, especially when they're in the throes of their cravings, right? Is they forget, why did they stop eating that food to begin with? Some people, they cut out junk food and fast food because they got really fat from eating it. Or someone else might cut out chocolate because whenever they have it, they get terrible breakouts or cystic acne. Other people might cut out certain foods because they have an allergic reaction to it. It messes up their digestion, or they get rashes or constipation or just terrible reaction to certain foods. Or someone might be cutting out alcohol because it makes them really depressed. So it's important to go back to why you cut those foods out to begin with. What were your reasonings for cutting it out? Because if you remember what your life was like while you were eating that food and while you cut it out and how great you felt after you cut it out, then that helps you to kind of stay on track and to resist the temptation more naturally without feeling like you're always fighting yourself. But when you know, yeah, that food has a negative charge because that food gave you really bad breakouts and you never want to leave your home, well, you're less likely to want to be eating it. You're less likely wanting to go back to living like that. Right? So it's important to remind yourself why you got off of it to begin with. The next thing is to sort of keep it out of sight, right? If you don't see it, you're less likely to be craving it. And so, a typical thing would be is not to be stocking it in your home, not to be having it at home. So if it's on your fridge or your pantry, then it's less likely to remind you about those certain foods that you used to eat. Now, a lot of times people will say to me, that's all great and dandy, but I live with my family, or I live with other people that eat these foods. Then the one suggestion I have is to think about what are foods that your family or your roommates or people you live with like to eat that you don't like to eat. You know, is there, let's say you always crave ice cream. Is there a flavor of ice cream that you can't stand, that you can stock up on for your family or for your roommates, but that you can easily pass up? Because I think for everyone, there are certain foods that they will pass up, that everyone else loves. And so if you have those in your home, then you can, it's more easy or to resist the temptation of eating it if you really don't like it, if it's really not worth eating. Okay, that can help. And also saving the treats and all that for when you go out. You know, make an occasion out of it, that you and your family go out and have these treat foods at a restaurant or a shop or something. Because then at least the serving is more controlled, right? They give you a serving of it and that's all you eat. Whereas if you have it at home, people are more likely to overeat things. And one thing can lead to another thing. So if you save it for an occasion where you can enjoy it, you have it out and you go somewhere and have a good quality treat, then it's worth it. And then you can feel like, okay, I had it and I can move on from it. Lastly, the one thing that I want to say with a lot of cravings is that a lot of times cravings are not necessarily about the food. It might be that you're having a craving for something because something else is going on in your life. And this is something to think about next time you have a craving, is asking yourself, what is this craving about? Is it really about the chocolate? Is it really about the bag of chips? Or is it because I'm stressed out? Is it because I'm not sleeping well? Is it because I hate my job? Is it because I'm overwhelmed? Is it because I've been feeling really depressed and lonely? What's going on in my life? Because the craving is not always about the food. A lot of times we can see that we don't give in to our cravings when we're really happy and when we feel like life is good and when we feel calm and we feel at peace. A lot of times, those are times when someone could be offering us a slice of cake and we say, you know what, I don't really need that. I feel really good about myself. I'm feeling really confident about myself these days. I don't need that. But then times when we're run down, times when we're stressed out, times when we're miserable, then it's really hard to say no to those things. So perhaps when you're having cravings, to look at it sort of like the red flag of you need to be taking care of yourself more. You need to be doing activities and doing things that make you feel good, that boost up your self-esteem, that make you feel confident about yourself, that release stress and tension, that calm you down. And you know, it's a red flag that something else needs to be taken care of that has nothing to do with that food. And if you see your cravings like that, then you're able more naturally to resist the temptation of having those foods and to start taking better care of yourself. So something to think about. All right, so these are my tips for today. And I'm wishing you guys a super fabulous day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.